I'm so thrilled to see you all here. My name is Gayatri Joshi. I am an account manager at Uplers, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar session titled Thriving in Tech, Turning the Challenges into Growth Opportunities. So, thank you everyone who has joined today. And I am very excited to introduce our guest, Prajwal Praveen, the Technical Operation Manager at Adiuvo. He brings a wealth of experience in remote work dynamics, data analytics, automation, and he is an AI enthusiast. Prajwal, it's truly wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. That was a very good introduction. Thank you so much. And yes, it's great to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, going ahead, at Uplers, our mission is to simplify the hiring process for our clients, making it reliable, easy, and fast. To further this goal, we have launched the Remote Revolution initiative, where we invite speakers from leading companies such as Twilio, GitLab, Atlassian, BrowserStack, and today Adiuvo, among others. They share valuable insights into their hiring process, company culture, values, interview tips, and essential traits for successful in global remote brands. So, our aim with this initiative is to empower everyone here today to upskill and secure a position with a top global remote brand. Moving ahead, as we begin our session, let's take a moment to review today's agenda and set the stage for what's ahead. We will kick off things with an introduction by our speaker, Prajwal Praveen, who will share his journey and insights about this company, Edivio. Next, we will dive into how to transform the challenges into growth opportunities, with Prajwal providing valuable tips on preparation and standing out in a competitive job market. He will also discuss the significance of continuous learning and networking. Finally, we'll wrap the session with a Q&A session. I'll encourage everyone to use the chat function throughout the session to ask any questions that you may have for Prajwal. My team is going to handpick a couple of questions, and we will ensure that they are responded by Prajwal at the end of the session. But rest assured, none of your questions will go unattended. Let's make this session as interactive as we can and take the full advantage of this opportunity to get insights from our speaker, Prajwal Praveen. So, with no further ado, let's get started. Prajwal, could you please share a bit about your journey and what excites you about working in a remote environment?
Awesome. So, first of all, Gayatri, I'd like to thank you and the team at Uplers. You guys have always been more than helpful for me, especially you, Gayatri. You've been a very good resource, and it's great working with you. And thanks for the introduction. Just a quick introduction about myself, won't take a lot of time. My name is Prajwal Praveen. I'm the technical manager at Adivo. I come in with over 5 years of work experience. I worked in project manager roles. I worked as a technical project manager as well. I worked in the US for about 4 years, and I moved back to India last year, and I started working with Adivo, which is basically a company which is headquartered in Ireland. Uh, so I come in with some experience of automation, and I love about AI. Just reading about it, learning about it, implementing it wherever I can. That's a quick introduction about myself. And as you can see, my assistant manager is on the slide as well. He's always there to make sure that, I take breaks from my work, at least for his streets or walks. So he always keeps me grounded.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your introduction, Prajwal. It's inspiring to hear about your journey, especially experience working in remote as well. We are really excited for learning more about you and about the firm. So, also great to know about your assistant manager. Just for the audience to know, he goes as Zeke.
Yes, he's a golden retriever. He's about 2 years now. He's been nothing but amazing.
I know he's one, like having a pet is a wonderful companion. Great. Also, the audience would be eager to know more about Edivios. So, what the company does and its work culture. Could you share some more insights with us?
Yes, definitely. So Adiuvo, right, as the name suggests, as you can see on the slide, it's to help, aid, or assist. So we are a 24/7 property management firm, where basically we help our customers to have a smooth operation. So when I say customers, it might be property managers or residents or block managers. So we have a 24/7 team who make sure that all the issues are basically connected to the right engineer and all the operations are flowing smoothly, basically. So we have a team based in Ireland, we have a team based in the UK, and also we have a team based in India.
Great. Thank you for shedding some light on Adivio's operation. And your insights will undoubtedly help the audience gain better understanding of what makes Edivio a unique and exciting place to work for. Moving ahead, let's begin with some overarching questions about candidates. What are the essential skills that employers seek in remote job applicants? Also, how can job seekers differentiate themselves during interviews? If you could provide some tips and tricks, that would be fantastic.
Definitely, Gayatri. So there's no one point answer for that question. There's like I always tend to believe there's like gear system, right? So there are multiple gears which have to turn simultaneously to achieve that. And
Mhm.
in my opinion, personally, it's always helped me. So first, I would always say you have to understand your career growth journey. I'm pretty sure our audience would have heard this a lot. Uh, what do you mean by understanding the career growth journey? Like I've always been told, finish your 10th standard, life will be enough, life will be chill. Finish your second PUC or 12th, life will be chill. But we need to have a certain goal in mind, right? So how do I grow? Where do I grow? So basically, what I want to explain here is when you're growing, one thing that you always have to remember is uh, embracing challenges as growth opportunities, right? So there have been times when there's been a certain issue at work or personal life, or I wouldn't
Yeah.
look at it as a blocker or a roadblock. I would always look at it as a challenge, basically. Uh, so just for example, right, if I'm not able to understand something, or uh, we implemented a new technology in office and I don't know about it. So I wouldn't look at it a way that, oh, I didn't learn about it. Now I'm never going to grow in my life, right? So I would look at
Hmm.
it as a growth opportunity. So I would go ahead, research about it, see why we are using it, see how it is helpful, see how it is adding value to the company, and then basically upskill myself, right? Like I said, it's a gear system. So once you start looking at it as a gear system or the bigger picture, right, you immediately start to see that it all boils down to your career growth success. Then
Hmm.
moving on, continuous learning. So like I covered in my previous point, continuous learning, right? So it's always good, especially in the tech industry, because it's changing literally every day. Like I keep seeing updates every single day. Like there's every company coming out with new products almost every day. So it's
Yeah.
very important to make sure that we have that continuous learning mindset in our mind, right?
Hmm.
Like for example, it not need not necessarily be professional life, it can be a personal life as well, right? Like just today I found out there's this app called I might be pronouncing it wrong, it's sanas.ai. It's basically an accent modulator, and that was basically that was something interesting for me. uh,
Hmm.
Even though it's not directly related to my work, but I always like to read more and see how it's going to help me personally as well. So that's a very important part. And staying adaptable, right? Like I said, companies come out with new technologies almost every single day. So you have to stay adaptable. That doesn't mean that you being for example, let's assume you're a subject matter of expert in data analytics. uh,
Hmm.
so you still know that if I give Gayatri 2 plus 2, Gayatri can convert that into actionable insights. You can either use SQL or Python or whatever it is, but still end of the day, the SME is your data analytics, right? So staying adaptable to make sure that you're able to implement your knowledge is very important. And finally, setting realistic goals, right? So that, as you can see in the image in the slide, it's I would consider every step as a progress rather than just thinking that, hey, I have to learn like a new language. Like I want to learn Python from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is, don't get me wrong, there might be really smart people, but I would look at it as setting realistic and achievable goals step by step. I might learn a module this week, I might learn a module next week. So setting realistic goals is always important as well, Gayatri.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing those valuable insights, Prajwal. I second it. Staying curious and committed to learning will help you progress in your careers, along with being flexible to the crucial dynamic work environment. Um, Also, many professionals allow me a minute. Yeah. Um, find challenges to stay, active with the evolving industry trends and expand their networks. So, Prajwal, we would like to know what strategies can individuals implement or prioritize to continue learning and enhancing their networking efforts for career advancements.
No, that's a great question, Gayatri. Especially this slide is very close to me because I follow this personally as well. So I'm literally an example of where I am today is because of
Yeah.
this particular slide, right? So talking about lifelong learning, I might be emphasizing about continuous learning throughout this talk, but that is very important. Like I said, my emphasis is going to be on continuous learning, right? So there are a lot of online courses out there or online tools. So I might have mentioned just 3 or 4 over here, but there's so many out there in today's world. I can literally learn anything just by going on Google, right? It doesn't always have to be like I have to pay for this, I have to pay for that. It's everything is available out there. It's just about your intent and will that, hey, I want to upskill myself. I want to make sure I am adaptable. I'm making sure that I'm matching the pace of the fast-paced trend in the tech industry, right? So that is one thing that I've always followed. And I also like to see getting certifications. So, like for
Yeah.
example, on LinkedIn, it might be a simple thing. Like recently, I got a digital marketing certification, right? So, I wanted to learn what is it about. Like even though I'm not completely into the marketing field, but I wanted to understand what it is, and I ended up getting a certification from I guess HubSpot was and it was really interesting. And now I know that field, right? So I'm able to talk a little bit about that field as well. Uh, and like I say, always stay curious, right? So to my example of learning the digital marketing thing, I was just curious to learn about it, right? If I actually blocked myself towards the tech field, I wouldn't have been able to like go towards it. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling that it's going to directly impact my professional life, but it's something that it's a mindset that goes into place, right? So if I'm doing that, it'll help me, like it'll open up my point of view, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Then followed by mentorship, right? So this is one thing that I've always followed. So I always look at my mentors as walking encyclopedias. So they hate me for saying this, but they always have helped me. uh, I know, like I said, all the information is available online, but certain things are learned only by experience, right? And it can be small things. I'm not saying it's a huge thing, but my mentors have always made sure to advise me in a way that I avoid common mistakes, and that has helped me a lot. And there's so many things that when I just meet them, right, when I'm just talking to them, I just learn something new. Or the way that I wouldn't have seen it, they would have definitely seen it. Like the point of view of them is a little bit different because of the experience and everything that they carry with them. So it's very important to find a good mentor for you. And then third one is I feel that I should have known this from before, which is building a professional network, right? Uh, I would definitely say building a professional network or having a professional network is as equivalent as your technical skills. It might not make sense in the first go, but having that strong professional network always helps. And when I started understanding this is when I started attending industry events where I started learning about new companies or new technologies. And that's when I understood there's so much to learn. Everyone had a different point of view and everyone were correct. So that gets you thinking like, who's wrong here, right? Because everyone had a different perspective. So which is always great. And of course, LinkedIn is there. LinkedIn helps you connect with a lot of people, and networking always helps opening certain doors that it usually you won't find those things. Like for example, there might be certain opportunities which might not show up on a website, right? But when I actually talk to someone and they're like, hey, you know what, there's an opening in my team. So that's always helped me as well, and I've seen a lot of people get jobs just by having that strong network, Gayatri.
Absolutely. Um, would you want the audience to know more about any of those, as you said, the courses that you have done? Any site that they could go, like Coursera, any of the educational sites where they can go and get this certifications? If you can talk about that also for audience who can go and take those courses.
It definitely, Gayatri. So I wouldn't suggest any single platform because every
Mm-hmm.
platform has something different to offer, right? So it
Okay.
depends on the person who's actually taking it. So even on Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, if you just go type data analytics, you get thousands of courses because every course is different from one. Even though it's teaching how to analyze data, it might teach you a different technology. So end of the day, it depends on what your end goal is. So depending on that, I would start aligning the course that I decide to do.
Perfect. Great. I think great insight for the audience as well. And these points emphasize the importance of being proactive in our professional development as well. Thank you for sharing these strategies, Prajwal. With the job market constantly evolving, many professionals are unsure which key skills are essential for career success. What are the most critical skills that individuals should focus on developing to remain competitive and achieve their career goals?
That's again a good question, Gayatri. So as you can see here, right, there is one which is technical mastery. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's like I said, yes, it is as important as professional network, but technical mastery is very important as well, of course, like I mentioned. So I'm always taking an example of data analytics because it's just easier to explain. Uh, so like I said, data analytics. So you can analyze it in one way, or you might just not know how to analyze it. So you have to couple that with a new technology. So I started off data analytics with just Excel, right? But then when I moved to another company, they were using SQL. So I had to make sure that I learned SQL. Then I moved to the next company, they were using Python, they were using R. So I had to move to the next platform. And all of these are very powerful platforms, don't get me wrong. But just making sure when you're talking to the industry experts, right, you understand which companies are using which technology, right? Like some feature which is available on XYZ platform might not be available on another one. So it's very important to talk to the industry experts, listen to their webinars or attend these events, learn what they are doing, learn what project they're working on. So you
Mm-hmm.
immediately get to know what kind of tech stack they're working on, right? So that's very important to have the technical mastery. Keeping yourself updated will definitely help you. Then moving on to the soft skills. So this is one thing that I've seen. I wouldn't call it lacking amongst today's people, individuals who want to start off their careers, but it's mostly ignored, I would say, because there have been times when most of my developers they would have done an amazing job, but they just don't know how to show it to me, or they just don't want to show it to me. They just finish it, they email it, hey, you know what, it's done. But having those communication skills, being vocal, is very important in a corporate world where you are able to say, hey, Prajwal, I finished this. And how did you achieve this? I did this, this, and this. That's why I achieved this, right? So most of the times I might not be even looking for the final end product. I might be seeing that, hey, how is this person analyzing it, right? The thought process is actually what counts for me, because that's what helps when there is a lot of critical issues, because you tend to avoid certain things, but when you have that very good thought process, you dive very deep and find the root cause for it. So soft skills is as important as technical mastery. And then adaptability. So like I said, most of my points are all a gas system connected to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Adaptability, like I mentioned, you have to make sure that you're learning the new technology which is in place. Like I said, in today's tech world, it's changing every day. So you need to make sure you're upping your game, you're always matching the fast-paced environment.
Absolutely. As you rightly said, these all go hand in hand. And I believe the audience would also have, got very clear understanding how this could be beneficial to you in your dynamic work environment. We appreciate your expertise in this. Thank you, Prajwal. Moving ahead, so as we transition to the next topic, let's focus on the interview process and how to effectively prepare for technical rounds. Prajwal, what strategies or tips or tricks do you consider essential for candidates to effectively showcase their skills? Additionally, if you can share what they can expect during these interviews, that would be great.
Yes, definitely, Gayatri. I'll at least walk them through out of my experience,
Sure.
and basically tell how it helps, right? So initially, my first point would be researching about the company, right? Most of the times when I interview someone, at least 60% of the times, they just don't know what the company does. Uh, it's most of the times it's just that, hey, I got this interview. Thank God, it's done. Let me go from here. Uh, I understand from a technical perspective, you might not want to know complete about the company, but it is very important to research about the company. Even though it's not going to be your day-to-day responsibility, it is always good to know a bit about the company, and it always gives that impression that, hey, this person has actually researched about us, done his homework, put in a lot of efforts, and he's come here today well prepared. So researching about the company is very important. Then practicing problems, right? So there are a ton of online tools. It can be Leet Code or whatever it is. There's a lot of mock questions, which basically shows how the technical interview might be, correct? So I would suggest spend a little bit time over there so you understand what kind of questions you might come up with, right? So practicing problems is very important. Understanding the system design, right? So this is for more like senior roles where you want to understand like the software architecture or something on those lines, where you have to explain a little bit about the system. So you need to be able to explain it in a very simple way to the hiring manager. Because if you just go in and you say, hey, this is a CRM, this is a ERP software that I built, but if you're not able to explain that to me, I know you that person would have spent months together on it. But if you're not able to explain it to
Yeah,
me, and if you haven't understood your own project, it just doesn't make sense to me.
correct.
Then we have revising key concepts, right? So this again is one of those things that I see in almost 80% of the candidates that I interview. Uh, and this is something that is ignored. I don't know why, right? So sometimes the candidates will be very good in whatever they do, but they always forget to revise certain key concepts. It can I be as simple as what's a full form of SQL or Wi-Fi or whatever it is. Like, I mean, I'm just giving an example. Don't get me wrong there, but you always have to revise your key concepts in your domain, in your specific domain. Then we have preparing for behavioral questions. So uh, this is actually a thing that I saw in the US, right? Most of the big companies, they have a final round where there is a behavioral question round. I think the importance of this is not actually explained to us properly. So most times I used to think this is just a waste of time. They just don't have questions for us, or they want to extend the interview because there's so many other candidates. But to be honest, it's actually helpful because it shows the hiring manager how that candidate performs in a team, right? For example, I started doing this more because I wanted to see how a candidate performs in a hostile environment. When I say hostile environment, where there's a lot of stress, if there is a particular project which is not going fine, or if the deadline is actually coming close by, how does that candidate perform? Right? How does he work well with the team? Correct. So having those answers, and again, you don't have to like be someone else in the interview. You just be yourself, right? So that's when it gives a clear picture to the hiring manager, to the company, and we immediately get to know that yes, this person is a good cultural fit for my team. It's going to be great working with this person, right? Uh, and then the mock interviews, right? So this one, it again, this I wanted someone to tell me about this before, but I missed it. But basically, mock interviews is just having a conversation with your friend or someone whom you know. It doesn't always have to be professional
Mhm.
environment. And initially, most of the times when I do this with my friends, they just end up laughing. But it actually helps me, right? It helps me fine tune my answers, and it definitely helps me a lot. And then we have know how to explain your code, right? So, like I mentioned, I might give a coding question, but I'm not looking for the destination. I'm looking for the journey, how you reached over there. Because you can reach the destination in a straight line or a curved line or a sinus wave or whatever it is. But I want to understand what you thought and how did you end up here, right? So that is very important. Sometimes there might be a coding interview where you're just coding in front of the hiring manager, and most of the times candidates are just quiet and they just go ahead and finish it, but explaining it as in when you're going through, and you don't have to get the code right at the end of the day. You just have to explain it to me how you're doing it, why you're doing it, why you're using this approach. That's always very helpful. finally, of course, staying calm and asking clarifying questions. And this as well, right? I've seen a lot of candidates who just don't prepare a lot of questions, because one thing, if you have an interview scheduled, uh, always know that you're not the person getting interviewed. It's equally that you're interviewing the company, because you are going to be spending 8 to 10 hours of your life per day on this company. So you need to know what kind of company it is. Like, for example, if I go to buy a shirt, I make sure I try it out, I see how it is, and all of those things. If I'm doing that just for a shirt, which takes like 5 minutes of my life, I have to make sure I interview the company properly, where I'm spending 8 to 10 hours of my day, right? So you need to make sure you ask questions. Always be calm. Be yourself. You don't have to be someone else in front of the camera, and be yourself off the camera, right? That's very important as well, Gayatri.
So wonderfully explained. I believe the audience would also agree to this. So minute things you have covered, which I think many of us might be missing, maybe the mock interviews, or maybe, just asking questions at times. So I believe the audience would have made a note of this. Wonderful insights on the entire interview process, and also some technical round preparation tips. So great insight. Thank you so much for this guidance, Prajwal. Moving ahead, Prajwal, I know that Adiuvo is currently expanding and has some exciting open roles. I'm sure that the audience would also want to learn more about these positions and the application process. What advice do you have for the talent considering Adiuvo as their next career move? Additionally, if you can also share some insights about the interview process with us.
Definitely, Gayatri. So as you can see on the screen, we have two openings of a backend developer and a front end developer. Uh,
Mhm.
so just to go deep about the hiring process, your first interview would be with the hiring manager, then second round would be with the tech lead, and then finally it will be with the leadership or C-level executive in our company. Uh, Sorry, before the C-level executive, we're going to have a take-home project. I completely forgot about that. My bad. But yeah, it's going to be around 4 rounds, where you will be asked about your projects, your resume, your tech stack, uh, everything detailed on your resume. And as I covered in my previous slide, right, uh, candidates have to follow those things, like research about the company, make sure you know about yourself, make sure you've revised your key concepts, make sure that you're asking me questions, make sure that you stay calm, right? And in short, you just have to cover all of those things before interviewing for these two particular roles. One thing which is very important, Gayatri, is the behavioral questions, because I tend to go a little bit more towards behavioral questions. Yeah, so that being said, we have these two roles open right now. If anyone's interested, like I said, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Thank you again for helping us understand how ADVO is moving and what are the current roles. Audience, you may want to make a note of the open positions along with reaching out to Prajwal on his LinkedIn. These two positions are also open with Uplers in case you want to register to Uplers and have yourself, being presented to them through us. That option is also open to you. Now, we are nearing the end of the session, and we have received numerous questions from the audience. Our team has selected a few, and we will try our best to address as much as we can. So, let me quickly start helping you with a couple of questions. Allow me a minute, please. So, Prajwal, I see one of the question is, how is your view on front-end developer as a career growth? Was
So
I audible? Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. So front end developers, right? Uh, I don't know. Most of the times it gets ignored or avoided, or people think it's not a good career path. But to be honest, front end development is as important as the back end development. Uh, I've seen in my experience as well in a lot of the projects. So initially, first initial days when I started off, we didn't even have a front end developer where like the back end developer can do it. But after we got a front end developer, we realized the difference between that. And I mean, these were like long days ago, but it's a very good career path. There's a lot of scope in it. And with today's technology, and again, don't get me wrong, a lot of people say AI is going to take over this, that, and all of that stuff. But I would look AI as just a GPS in your car, right? Like when I leave my house, I can enter a particular destination or a location, and the GPS is going to tell me where to go. The GPS is going to tell me make a right. It depends on me if I'm going to make a right or left, correct? So that being said, yes, front end development is a very good career path.
Great. Thank you for sharing this insight. As we all know, Prajwal, that jobs ideally require experience. But how a fresher can crack remote jobs?
That's a very good question, and again, there's no one point answer to this. There's a lot of things that go into play, right? One,
Mhm.
it's about how you network with industry experts. There might be a company that might have a lot of internship opportunities, right? Or there might be a company which has a lot of fresher roles. So talking to industry experts, talking to all these companies, having a very good professional network always helps find these opportunities. And honestly, remote work, it might sound like it's completely different than on-site, but it's no different than being on-site. It's just about you just sit wherever you are and you work. But yeah, like I said, you have to network a lot with your professional connections to make sure that you're finding the right opportunities.
Great. I believe this is also great insight for the one who had this question for our guest. Also, Prajwal, one of the audience has reached out with a question. I am a manual tester and switching to automation testing. I'm looking for a job, but every single company needs experience in automation testing. So now what should I do?
See, this again boils down to so many points that I emphasized. Manual testing is very important, by the way. It's not like manual testing is not required. It definitely is required. But the reason companies just post out, hey, we need automated testing is because before all that, let me just backtrack, right?
Hmm.
So first of all, most of the times, even myself, I always used to believe who better than the developers test the application? They can correct
Hmm.
their own homework, correct? But then after some time, when you're churning out a lot of projects, you're covering a lot of bugs or new features, then you realize you need some QAs in your team. The reason they talk about a lot of automations is we want to cover the lead time, reduce it. But that being said, it is not a wrong thing for a company to post it. But if you're a manual tester right now, it is important for you to upskill yourself, learn some technologies like Selenium or X-ray boards or whatever it is, and it helps you professionally as well.
Thank you. Also, Prajwal, another one in the chat is I wanted to ask if you are currently hiring outside of India for any roles, especially in .NET development.
Unfortunately, as of now, we do not have any business requirement which is outside of India. But if there's anything open, you can definitely, like Gayatri mentioned, you can take a look at Uplers or even just check my LinkedIn. I keep posting it if there's any openings. So I would suggest doing that.
Thank you. Ritual, the next one is inquiring about do resumes, score, and other factors really affect?
That's so I've been in like multiple situations, right? So let me give you this one situation where basically it's a resume used to be put through an automated resume checker. I forget what the terminology is. And most of the times, the candidate would have been amazing, but just because maybe from a formatting error or something, right, that particular candidate's resume used to get rejected. So that being said, uh, there are some other part of candidates who won't know a lot of things, but they just end up adding it on the resume. But
Mhm.
end of the day, you have to understand that the hiring manager or the leadership of the company has been doing what they do for a really long time, so they can actually understand and figure out if you're telling that you know something and you don't know it. So there's a fine line or fine balance over there. But one thing that I find always helpful and valuable is to explain your projects and in a very compact way put it on your resume. Because me as a hiring manager myself, I don't look at a resume for more than 10 to 15 seconds. I just take a look at the tech stack, I see the project, if it makes sense, if it's interesting, yes, I'm going to interview this particular candidate. So make sure that you're explaining it,
Mm,
you're telling what you have done. So I always call it showing off what you have done. So that's very important.
that's correct. Also, Prajwal, I see someone inquiring. I don't have any technical experience. I have career gap of 4 years. Learned full stack and did few small projects. Can I restart my career as fresher? Do I get opportunities?
Yes, most definitely you will. I actually recently hired someone, but that was for a different position. Uh, See, career gaps can be inevitable, right? It
Mm,
can be because of personal reasons, professional reasons, XYZ, whatever it is. That doesn't have to stop you from growing or upskilling yourself, right? The only thing that you have to make sure is you are able to explain why you had that career gap, correct? Just to
mm,
give an example, I don't want to take names, but this particular candidate whom I hired basically had a career gap of about 2 to 3 years. And when I was interviewing, I asked that person, why do you have a career gap? And their answer was most into like, I wanted a break in life for my mental health, right? But in
okay.
today's world, it's so important to have that mental health break. So I was really impressed by that answer. So I asked, can you walk me through what you were doing? How did it help you? And the way that candidate explained to me, I was so impressed by it. And it basically shows that they took a break, they're refreshed, and they get back into work. And also never think that, oh, I have a 6 month gap, I have a 2 years gap, they're not going to hire me. It's not at all like that, honestly. It's always a wrong notion in today's world.
Very well explained again, Prajwal, because as you said, at times it's unavoidable. You may have to take a break, and these are some questions in the mind of job seekers. So great to know from you that as a interviewer, the company may not be so importantly looking at the breaks. They are more concerned to know the reason behind why that break was taken. So if that is
Exactly.
justified, I believe it does not make any difference. So thank you. Thank you for helping us with that answer. Next one is asking about how to get a resume selected outside of India.
I actually saw that question, and that's a very good question, right? So one thing I can tell about my experience, at least in one of the countries that I work, which is the US.
Mm-hmm,
So in the US, there is a particular format that they usually follow. It's a
mm-hmm.
single page resume, which is always encouraged. It's not like a rule of thumb, but it's always encouraged to have a single page of resume, unless until you have 10 plus years of experience. Then definitely you have to expand it to 2 pages. But or else it's always encouraged to have a single page, and then you have a certain format that you have to follow. It's not rocket science. It's just that you Google US resume format. It's more of like having a career section, then you have a skill section, then you have the education experience. The reason they do that is going back to my point of the automated resume checker. Once you submit your resume, it automatically throws it into the checker. And if you have, let's say, 6 years of experience and you mentioned the term SQL in that paragraph, it automatically scores your SQL experience, links it to 6 years. So it's very necessary to make sure that you're following that particular format. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of material out there on Google, but this is out of experience. I'm just saying, I've seen that practically work as well. So it's very important to put in those buzzwords, keywords, and have that particular format in.
Wow, great to know. Also, Prajwal, the next on my list talks about there are some AI related remote jobs that are, sorry, that are don't have any technical knowledge and they are open to everyone. So how to crack those kind of jobs? Do you want me
Correct
to
me if I'm
repeat?
yeah, no, correct me if I'm wrong. As per my understanding, your question is there are non-technical AI roles out there. How do I crack those roles? Am I understanding it right?
Yeah, so yeah, it talks about AI related remote jobs, and this person does not have technical knowledge. Okay,
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
open to everyone. So how can somebody crack those kind of jobs?
That's a good question. So see, most of the times, you don't need to have experience in that particular role, right?
Mhm.
Because see, every company has a different tech stack that they use. Every company has
Yes.
different applications, different platforms. So, for example, if I am looking for a Node developer and you have
Okay.
experience in another platform or something on those lines, it's not necessary you have or you show me practical experience. All you have to explain to me is you understand the concept, you take the technical rounds, you show me that you know this particular tech stack, right? So
Mhm.
that always helps the hiring manager basically show that this person has done his research, this person knows what he's talking about, this person knows exactly what we are looking for. And fourth one is the learning curve reduces. See, from a hiring manager's perspective, my one KPI that I look at is what's the learning curve rate? Like, how long am I going to take to teach this particular candidate? Uh, do they have the intent to learn? Right?
Mhm.
Because sometimes uh, the manager might feel, okay, this candidate is a very good candidate, I can train this person. But if there's no intent from the candidate, uh, you just can't help it, right? So show that intent to learn, show the intent to upskill, research, read a lot about those topics, and definitely you can apply. You have the conversation, tell them that you are interested in this role. And one more thing to add is sometimes what will happen is you might interview for that role, you might end up getting an internship or a
Mhm.
fresher role or a different role, and that might click when you're talking to them. Correct?
Yes.
That's happened so many times. Like
Yes.
one of my hiring manager, he was working with some candidate, and he was interviewing for, I forget which role it was, but then we didn't have a QA team that time. So when the
Mhm.
candidate told about their interest towards testing and want to learn automation, uh, we just literally went ahead and hired that person for a QA role. So the position was completely different, but then we hired the person for a different role. So it's important to have that conversation with the company.
Very, very true. I also see someone inquiring that as a front-end developer for intern or training position, which skill is enough for a career start?
So see, as an intern or
Mhm.
trainee, right? So I I, I automatically assume intern or trainee is the same. So the
Yeah,
question is more of what do I need to learn as a fresher? Correct.
correct.
So it
Yes.
depends on what stack you want to be learning, right? So you might want to align what your career path is. So 5 years from today, where do I see myself? Where do I see what do I work with 5 years from now? So you got to
Hmm.
research which tech stack you want to be aiming at. And again, if you actually sit and research which companies are using what, you find all of that on Google. If I don't know, Meta is using this, you might want to go towards that. So it all depends from person to person and what their intention is and where they want to be in the next 5 years. So once they're able to dive deep into that and basically pinpoint it, they will be able to understand which tech stack they need to be learning.
Wow. I believe the one who had this question has got the answer to it. You would have to look at how you plan your career down the line 5 years, and accordingly, you may want to get trained on that skill set and then move ahead. Thank you again, Prajwal. One of the question on the chat is, how do you perceive it when recruiters does not reject you after an interview, but keeps you on hold for a period of 2 to 4 weeks?
Yeah, so that's a little that's a complicated question, I would say. Uh, Sometimes I wouldn't say sometimes. Most of the times, the recruiter isn't ghosting a person. It's just that they have so much work and so many candidates to interview. Even before I worked with the HRs, I always used to think these guys are not doing anything. Why are they rejecting this person? Why are they not replying? But I had a project and I worked with the HR department and I saw the number of emails they get and the
Mhm.
amount of work they do. That is when I realized, okay, it's better to give them some time. But that being said, if a recruiter is not getting back to you, always one thing you have to make sure is when you're ending an interview, right? It's important to get their contact information. It can be just a simple line of, hey, can I connect with you on LinkedIn or can I get your email or whatever it is, right? So
Mhm.
having that contact information will help you get those updates whenever whatever, like you said, 2 to 3 weeks they didn't respond or whatever it is. So having that connection always helps to get that update from them.
Great. I believe, Sachin, this was your question, and you got your answer. I believe we can still take some questions, so I will take another one, Prajwal. As you guys are working remotely as an organization, what tools or technologies have been instrumental in facilitating remote collaboration and project management?
Oh yeah, that's a very detailed answer that you can have over there, but just to summarize it, right? So
Mhm,
I've used, let's start off on the basic. I've used Slack, I've used Teams, then for project management, I've used Jira, Microsoft Planner, or Monday.com. So end of the day, it doesn't depend on what technology you're using, but it actually depends on how your team is actually updating you. Most of the times,
mhm,
my developers, they work. I know they work, but they might forget to update it on the Jira boards, and it's like a call every single day. Like, guys, can you update this? Can you update this? But I think it's more of having that bond with the team, where you know what they're doing and what tasks you've been tracking. It can be as simple as a sprint. It can be a 2 week sprint, and you might have asked them, "Hey, what's going on?" So you just wait for the sprint to get over, and automatically, I assume my developers have finished it, and that's how it's always been going on. But to add to my point, how I manage projects currently, I use Jira boards, a lot of automations. There's a lot of Power Automate that I use nowadays for
mhm.
like approvals or rejections or whatever it is. So yeah, these are the tech stacks that I use as of now.
Great. Thank you again, Prajwal. This is interesting one. It says, as you mentioned in the previous slide, what kind of questions we should ask to the interviewer to make a positive impact, and if you can share some examples.
Right. So one thing that you need to understand is you're not asking questions to leave a positive impact on the interviewer, but you have to look at it as a way that how the interviewer responds to you, it has to leave a positive impact on me, correct? Uh, I need to understand the culture of the company. I need to understand what is going on in the company. So some of the questions that I would ask or I have asked in my personal life before is, uh, what are the new projects the company is working on, right? So why I would ask this question is I immediately get to know where the company is headed to, correct?
True.
And most of the times, I'm not saying you will get a straightforward answer, but you immediately get to know what a company is doing. So if you ask me what's going on, I will say that I have this AI product coming out, I have XYZ product coming out. So you immediately get to know that this company is going towards tech and they have a lot of projects in their pipeline, correct? But whereas other companies or some companies might be like, no, we don't have a project, we're just looking for this. So you get to know where the company is headed, right? And
Mhm,
then the second thing that I would ask is, what does a day-to-day role look like? Correct.
true.
Again, going back to my example of buying a T-shirt, if you're going to try it for 5 minutes and then buy it, you're going to be spending hours together on this job. Ask them how it's going to look like, because most
True.
of the times, not most of the times, there might be certain tasks that might not have been discussed, and this might not be intentionally. It might just be because a short time frame or whatever it is. But once a candidate comes in, then they realize that, hey, you know what, I never knew that I had to do this, right? And that's when people start thinking, oh, this is a blocker for me. uh, it all goes back to my first slide. Don't look at that as a blocker. Make sure you're growing it. Look at it as a challenge.
Mm, wow. Great, great answer. I can pick one more, I believe. So the one that I see is these days, if we look at the job description, the list of expectation is endless, as it makes a lot of candidates feel like they are incompetent. What should be our approach if we really want to work in that company?
Right. So I myself sometimes put some requirements which is not needed. But the reason we do that is, uh, you might not know this, but you might know something related to that. Correct. So like I said, you might know SQL, but uh, you might not know Python. Basically, the end goal is, again, giving the example of data analytics. My end goal is data analytics. So I might put the requirement as SQL, Python, and R. It doesn't mean you're going to
Mhm.
be working on all those three applications to analyze my data or do whatever data modeling, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so most of the times you don't have, most of the times, no, always you don't have to have all of those requirements that you need that they put on the
Okay.
job description. It's more about, hey, you know what? For this, I have this particular tech stack. So you got to be explaining how you're going to be achieving that job description or job requirement with the technical skill that you have. So I wouldn't not apply to a job just because it wanted me to have 100 plus years of experience. I would anyway go ahead, but I will make sure to tell guys, you're looking for this requirement. I have this particular tech stack and I've done this. I have a proven record of doing XYZ and I'll be able to achieve this. So that gives a clear picture of what is required.
Wow. Well explained. Um, Although we are just about to near the end of this session, Prajwal, would you be okay to take up one last question?
Yes, definitely. I actually saw one question which I'd like to answer. I see
Sure.
someone asking, which skill do I have to learn with Power BI? Uh,
Okay.
So that's an interesting one, right? So Power BI is more of creating dashboards, but I would look at Power Automate uh, because there's a lot of robotic process automation. So Power Automate has a lot of workflows. So learning that with Power BI is something that I would look at because it helps automate certain manual intensive tasks, which will be helpful for the team and the management, and it clears some bandwidth. So that's something I would look at.
Great. Gauri, I think you got the answer to your question. I think I can still cover one and then we'll move ahead. I have a notice period of 3 months and looking for a change at the moment, but no company is ready to accept 3 months of notice period. Um, Prajwal, what would be your suggestion or guidance to such kind of a situation?
Right. So like I said, when you're researching a company and you're asking questions, and you get to know that this company is going to have a project which is going to expand, correct? For example, right now I'm hiring two roles, and of course, that means I have a project going ahead. Uh, the team is going to expand, correct? And the team might not expand in the next minute or in the next day. It's definitely going to expand after a few months. So if a company says that, hey, your notice period is too long for us to handle, you immediately ask them, okay, fine, where do you see your team growing? It goes back to what questions you ask the recruiter, correct? Where do you see your team growing? Where do you see your company growing? So if they actually answer those and it's actually in line with their mission, vision, and their strategy according to their yearly predictions, then definitely I would say reach out to them after 3 months. Or I know this is a very uh, weird answer to say because 3 months you're going to put down your papers and you won't have a job. So definitely I would tend to ask the company, hey, you know what? Will you be requiring this particular skill in 3 months from now? And if the
Hmm.
hiring manager feels yes, so one thing is I already have a candidate in mind. In the meantime, I have two developers
Mhm.
that I can train, get them up to speed so that when this candidate joins after 3 months, I don't have to be looking at this candidate. These two developers are just going to train them and go on from there. So that's something to keep in mind.
Wow, wonderful. I believe the audience who had this question, he has helped you with a lot of information. Also, Prajwal, I so appreciate you have actually answered, I believe, almost all the questions, but I encourage the audience, feel free to still go ahead and put questions. We can still take that up. I'll help you understand how. But Prajwal, thank you so much for helping with the answers to all these questions.
No, thank you,
Um,
Gayatri. Like I mentioned, it's always been a pleasure working with you and the team at Uploads.
Great. Thank you so much. Um, as we take the next step with Uplers, um, if you are interested in registering on our platform and exploring the open job opportunities, we have put the link for you. Join our vibrant community on Discord for exclusive perks. Also, we will be sending the invite to Prajwal to join the group. So, if you have any questions that are unattended or you have more questions, feel free to share it there. Prajwal will be trying his best to respond to those questions once he joins the Discord group or WhatsApp group. So feel free to post your questions there. Also, don't forget to check out the WhatsApp group link as well. You can receive notifications about any upcoming sessions like this. And the entire series is a great opportunity to learn what employers are looking for in remote applicants and to better understand the remote, work landscape. So here, Prajwal, we can't thank you enough for sharing all your valuable insights and knowledge about yourself, about Adiuvo. The tips that you have given are undoubtedly helping all of us thrive in turning those challenges into growth opportunities. I did also like to extend my gratitude to all the attendees. I hope you found the session helpful, and we are excited to hear more about your journeys in the remote workspace. We look forward to connecting with you all on Discord. And thank you again, Prajwal, for taking out time, taking this session. Thank you.
Likewise, Gayatri. Thank you so much. And of course, thanks to all the attendees over here.
Great. I'm wishing everyone a wonderful evening. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you, Prajwal.